Hey everybody, Philly Z here. Wow, it is so nice out. I hope you guys are getting a really nice day today when you're watching this video. It's getting warmer. Tell Spring's around the corner. I thought it'd be a good day to do a garden side chat on a subject that's near and dear to my heart. When is too early to start planting your seeds? Or is there too early a time to start planting your seeds? Thanks for checking out this video today. If you like it, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe button, the notification bell. Thumbs up is really important. It makes it so this video gets shown to more and more people. So if you like what you see here today, I'd appreciate it if you just click on that thumb and turn it blue. So let's get started. Is there too early a time to plant your seeds? Unfortunately, the answer is yes. I've been caught in this trap year after year after year after year after year. I'm always having to wait through a cold, snowy winter, and I want to get started with growing and do one of those things that I love to do. So what I end up quite often doing is I'll start seeds earlier than I'm supposed to. I grow them under lights, so that's not really a huge issue, but it becomes an issue. And I'll take you through why you'll want to actually suppress that urge and just wait another week or two for certain things, and it will make a lot of difference in terms of your overall crop, your overall yield, the health of everything. So what can happen if we plant our seeds too early? Well, if you happen to grow your seeds in your windowsill and you use natural light to grow them, that's super cool. I've done that. I appreciate that one. If you do happen to do it that way, you're going to need it so you have at least 10 hours of sunlight for the seedlings to grow properly. If you're not getting that amount of sunlight, your seedlings will end up a lot leggier, longer, weaker, just not as healthy, and they won't get a strong start. If you're planting indoors, light won't be your issue. What becomes your issue is the amount of growth that's going to happen if you start your seeds too early. This one I've done a lot. And it gets frustrating because in the end, the amount of space that the plants are going to take up it takes over your grow area. It can take over your whole room, whatever you're growing in. That can become quite an issue. You're going to have to pot these things up, so you're going to end up having to use more and more materials. You're going to have to water these things more because they're going to be bigger and more vigorous growth. More plant, more water. I saw it referred to as indoor jungle. And that's cool. I like the green and I like the indoor stuff, but I don't like when I start running out of space underneath my lights to fit all these plants in. This has been a classic problem for me because I do grow a lot of tomatoes and peppers, and they're all going usually around the same time. And wow, it takes a lot of space, and yeah, so just that's a real big negative of starting early. So if you don't end up potting them up, they end up becoming root bound, and the root bound plants are not going to get as good a start in your garden, and they're not going to finish as strong. Another thing that is always on my mind is the cost of what I'm doing. So if we end up starting them really early, we're going to spend more money on things like containers, like more potting soil, fertilizer, nutrients, because you're going to have to supplement them inside before you're getting them outside. As the plant gets bigger, its requirements, what you need to feed it and all of that becomes more and more as well. So just, it's more costly if you start it early. Another thing to consider is that the older plants, they can start to mature. They can even bolt. Certain types of plants will bolt if they get to a certain maturity, and you do not want that happening. That will affect the growth. You're trying to get your transplants in a vegetative state. You don't want to turn them into the fruiting side of it. That will decrease your overall yields. You don't want your, and I've had this happen, but you don't want your pepper plants to be flowering inside under your lights before you're getting them out into the garden. That's why I'll end up pruning. Well, one of the reasons why I will prune the pepper plants. Video on that, of course. I'll prune them just I'll take the flowers off before they form so that the plant can try to focus its energy on the vegetative growth. So by starting too early, your plants will mature before they're ready to mature, before they've had their full vegetative cycle out in your garden. And lastly, sometimes what can happen is if you get your plants your seedlings started too early, they start growing really well, they start taking up a lot of space, you feel a push to get them outside, and you may end up pushing them outside a little bit premature or early, and that will end up affecting their growth as well. You don't want to put the warm loving seeds in the ground too early, just like you don't want to put the warm loving transplants out too early. The next part I'm going to talk about is when to plant those seeds then. If you don't want to plant them too early, when is the earliest I can plant them? The quick answer to that is you want to start your seeds the right number of weeks before you're going to transplant your seedlings out to your garden. And you're going to transplant those out to your garden when the danger of frost, if you live in a zone that has frost, once that is passed. So depending on the type of seed you're growing or plant you're growing, that will influence how many weeks before the frost date you will want to start those plants. Check your back of your seed pack. Quite often that will tell you how many weeks before for that particular variety you want to start your seedlings. You can check on the company's website. You can check in a garden catalog online, or you may have one. You check there for all the planting out dates or the number of weeks that you want to get things started before you plant them out. You can figure out your last frost date by looking online or talking to any of the local gardeners that happen to be around you. Most people will know when the last frost happens to come. Usually around here, we're talking mid to third week in May. So once you know the frost date, and you know how many weeks before the frost date you're supposed to start your seedlings, just take a look at a calendar and count back the number of weeks, and you'll know the start date for whatever crop it is that you're growing. For me, I'll give you a basic rundown of my numbers and generally speaking when I start my seeds. The first ones, and the ones that I've already done now, it happens to be near the end of February. Around mid-February I started my onions and leeks. Some of those plants or seeds, they can be started about 10 to 12 weeks before your last frost date. My pepper plants, if you want to put celery, oregano, eggplants, those are next. And those can be started about 8 to 10 weeks before your last frost date. Next are your tomatoes, basil, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, kale, lettuce, all of those, a whole bunch of them. They can be started at 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date. And then the last ones that I'll plant under the lights are going to be my melons, my squashes, pumpkins, and cucumbers. Those I will start about 4 to 6 weeks before the last frost date. That's just a general breakdown. Where you live, look into the details and look at what you're growing. That's going to influence a lot of when you get things started. I always find it helpful to just have a calendar and plot out those dates if you need to. Put it in your phone if you happen to use a phone for a lot of those purposes. And finally, is it better late than never to start, or is it better late than early? Yes, it's better to be a little bit late in starting your seedlings than being early. And why that is if you start a little late, you're still going to have a really healthy plant that's in its early, strong growing stages when you're putting it out into the garden. And that's going to just make that plant that much more healthy as it goes through the transplant, and it will establish really well and be able to take advantage of then the garden and finish off your season strong. So that was just a quick little video I wanted to put together today. It's so nice out here. I had to get out and do a video on when to get those seeds started. I know you want to get them going, all of them right now. So do I. Trust me, I do. But it pays to hesitate. Just hesitate as long as reasonably possible. Thanks again for checking me out here today, guys, on the Gardenside Chat. If you liked what you saw, please share this video with other people, other friends. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you have something you want me to talk about, put that in the comments below. I read them all, and it really helps me out if you hit that thumbs up. It shows this video to more and more people. Thanks again. Have a great day, and we will talk to you guys real soon.